They texted the night before my housewarming. We'll skip it. Your sister just moved, too. No greeting, no apology, just pixels cutting through a dark kitchen. I blew out the candles I'd set for them, slid the bolt on the door, and ate alone at a table laid for 15. A week later, while cameras drifted through my new cliffside villa for a national home renovation channel, that same phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Missed calls rose like tides. The broadcast was only the first wave. Have you ever been quietly erased by your own family? When I was 8, Christmas began with the click of my mother's heels and the smell of cinnamon. My younger sister, Olivia, glowed beside the tree, ribbons in her hair, center of gravity for the entire room. "Open yours, sweetheart," Mom would say, handing her a gold-wrapped box. Mine waited off to the side, smaller, practical. Socks. A notebook. "You like writing things down." Mom would remind me, like predictability was a personality. At 10, Olivia danced in a white dress at the spring festival, and the crowd clapped as if she'd invented joy. Dad lifted her high and said, "That's my girl." A week later, I brought home a blue ribbon for a solar car I'd built from scrap wood and foil. He glanced at it and said, "Nice. Don't stay up so late," then turned back to the game. By 12, I'd learned that silence left fewer bruises than hope. When Olivia made cheer, there were balloons and dinners and new shoes. When I earned a spot in a state engineering program, Mom said, "Help your sister with her English project later." It wasn't cruelty, just absence, a steady forgetting that settled like dust. I found refuge in the old shed, cedar and rust in the air. One long summer afternoon, I built a tiny table, crooked legs, rough edges, but it stood. I ran my hand along the grain and thought, this is mine. No one can edit it. That table followed me through every move. I refinished it, hauled it up 3 flights to my dorm, used it as a desk, a drafting surface, a workbench for the first prototypes of furniture I'd later sell. If Olivia was the heart, I was the structure. The beams nobody noticed until they cracked. That was the year I stopped asking for recognition and started building it. The housewarming text arrived on a Thursday as I finalized delivery notes. Outside, restless sea, sky sawed in half by silver and blue. "We'll skip your housewarming. Your sister just moved, too." No question mark, just certainty. I typed "that's fine" and turned the phone face down. The villa smelled of fresh paint and cedar oil. Across the room, the long oak table caught late light, 15 chairs spaced equally, no head seat. Somewhere inside, something shifted. Not rage, decision. I slid the phone into a drawer, opened the leather notebook I've carried since college, and drew a line down the center of a blank page. On the left, those who always had a seat. On the right, those who never did. Names came faster than I expected. Cousins overlooked at holidays, friends who ate alone, my grandmother Eleanor, who'd been told she talked too much for company. I underlined each name until the paper grooved. Then I shut the notebook and looked at the horizon, a narrow band of gold between day and night. I wasn't waiting to be invited anymore. I would set the table. The night carried me like a blueprint. I rolled tracing paper across the dining table and mapped a single evening, angles, sight lines, light sources, airflow. At the top I printed in pencil, "Everyone gets a seat." By dawn, every chair placement was measured so no one's back faced the water. Equal light, equal view. A floor plan for belonging. Morning, invitations. Short messages, direct and warm. "Dinner this Saturday. Come hungry." I called people from the list. Maya, who'd spent birthdays waiting for a call that never came. Ari, my cousin left out of the last reunion. Aunt Lena, who used to eat in the kitchen because her laugh was too loud. They answered with disbelief, then relief. "You're hosting." "It's time," I said. The villa woke with purpose. Deliveries hummed up the hill. I moved like a site lead, clipboard, checklists calm. Linen in cream and slate. Identical plates, identical glassware. No secret hierarchies in pattern or size. At the hardware store, I bought twine for hanging bulbs, marine clips, weatherproof cloth. When the clerk asked, "Big party?" I said, "A small revolution," and he laughed, not knowing I meant it. Back home, I measured the candle line and adjusted chairs by centimeters. Whenever tension rose in my chest, I grounded my palm on the oak surface and felt the wood steady me. In the evening, a local chef named Julia arrived. Capable hands, kind eyes. "What kind of dinner is this?" she asked, unpacking herbs. "A table for people who stopped being invited," I said. Something soft flickered at the corner of her mouth. Then we will make every plate say welcome. 2 days unfolded like choreography. Bulbs strung low for warmth. Wildflowers gathered from the cliffs. Eucalyptus and lavender threaded the air. I left a small handwritten card at each place setting. You belong here. The production crew from the design channel showed early to capture B-roll. They moved quietly through golden light, cameras drifting past beams and glass. I kept working, tightening a fixture, aligning cutlery, brushing stone dust from the counter. One cameraman murmured, "You move like you built it." I didn't answer. By midnight, the great room glowed amber. The table ran parallel to the sea. I walked its length, fingertips grazing every chair. 15 touches. Outside, the waves rehearsed the soundtrack for what was coming. At dusk the next evening, headlights traced the hill. Through glass I watched silhouettes. Maya's kids sprinting to the door, Aunt Lena clutching a pie wrapped in a towel, Ari carrying his guitar. Their laughter braided with the tide. Inside, I lit candles one by one until the glass reflected a horizon of flame. When the last guest arrived, I closed the door, took a seat halfway down the table. Not at the end, and let conversation find its rhythm. No toasts. No speeches. Forks against plates. Voices knitting a space that had always been missing. The episode aired a week later. We hung a white sheet on the terrace and projected it under the stars. The opening shot rose along the cliff. Light poured out of the villa like gold water. The narrator said, "When architect-designer Hannah Reed built her ocean home, she created a place where every seat is equal." They cut to a clip of my hands aligning knives, sunlight striping the cedar beams. My voice, steady, recorded months earlier, said, "Fairness isn't decor. It's structure." No one spoke until the credits. Then soft applause. Wind brushed the railing. I thought done. The phone started humming. Then shaking. Then crawling with notifications. "Mom. Dad. Olivia. Why didn't you tell us? Everyone's talking. You embarrassed us." I let it ring. "Answer?" Maya asked. "Not yet," I said. By morning there were 30-plus missed calls and a scroll of texts. Grandma Eleanor's call came last. "They'll try to rewrite it," she warned. "Let the truth sit in daylight. It holds its own weight." Soon my mother called again. I put the phone on speaker at the kitchen island. Grandma sat beside me with tea. "Hannah," Mom began, voice carefully soft, "we watched your episode. There's been a huge misunderstanding about what I said. They made it sound like we excluded you. That isn't true. Your sister was moving. You know how busy. You excluded me in your own words," I said, watching sunlight crawl across the sea. "I still have the text." Silence. Then the familiar pivot, reasonable, practiced. "You're overreacting. We've always supported you. We just thought you wouldn't want to make a spectacle of a housewarming. You're so private." Grandma set down her cup. "Marilyn, stop. I've watched you do this since she was small. Turn the light away from her and call it fairness." "It wasn't. It was favoritism." "That's not true," Mom breathed. "It is," Grandma said gently. "And now everyone can see it." The line stayed open long enough for my father to mutter something about drama. I didn't engage. The silence wasn't mine to carry anymore. After the call, Grandma studied me over the rim of her cup. "You didn't need to win," she said. "You needed to stop holding it." 2 quiet days passed. Linen faintly creased. Air salted with lemon and wax. The sea leveled out gray, steady. I left the phone face down and opened the terrace doors so wind could move through the rooms. I realized I've spent years building spaces where others belong. I had been building toward this silence all along. That final evening, I invited only 3 people. My parents and Olivia. No cameras, no extra chairs, just a small table near the fire. The old cedar table from the shed, its surface still scarred from a girl's first sanding. 4 plates. A bottle of wine. When they arrived, they seemed smaller, the ocean sounding like a quiet witness behind them. Mom traced the edge of the wood. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Different than I imagined." "It's home," I said. We ate mostly in silence. The fire cracked. Dad complimented the salmon. Olivia stared at the table and said softly, "I didn't know it hurt that much." "I didn't know how to say it," I answered. No apologies. No verdicts. Just space. When they stood to leave, Mom exhaled in a voice that wasn't polished or performative. "You did good, Han. Really good." It wasn't redemption. It was recognition. Enough. After they left, I sat by the embers until the room dimmed. The waves kept their metronome. For years I waited for their chairs to open. Now I build entire tables. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, hear this. Silence isn't weakness. It can be design, structure, control. Sometimes walking away isn't losing, it's rebuilding on your terms. If that moment, the door closing, peace chosen over permission, stayed with you, tell me your story in the comments. And if you want more where justice speaks softly, stick around. There's always another quiet victory waiting to be built.